In a quiet suburban neighborhood, there lived a homeowner named Mike. Mike was an ordinary guy who loved his home but found himself in constant trouble with the Homeowners Association, HOA. He had received multiple fines for what they called uneven lawn maintenance. To him, it felt like a never-ending battle. Every time he looked outside, he saw his patches of grass that simply didn't grow the same way. Instead of a beautiful green expanse, he had spots of yellow and brown scattered across his yard. Each fine made him feel more frustrated and helpless. He couldn't understand why his yard needed to look perfect while others seemed to get away with far worse. The HOA's strict rules felt silly, and the stress of keeping up was overwhelming. As he sat on his porch one afternoon, staring at his uneven lawn, a thought crossed his mind. Why should he let the HOA dictate how he maintained his yard? Little did he know that this moment would spark a bold idea that would change everything for him and his neighborhood. This was just the beginning of a surprising journey toward freedom from the endless fines, one that involved creativity and a touch of rebellion. The day arrived when Mike opened his mailbox to find yet another fine from the HOA. As he pulled out the dreaded letter, a wave of anger washed over him. This fine felt like the final straw. He had tried everything to keep his lawn presentable, from watering schedules to special fertilizers, yet nothing seemed enough for the HOA. In that moment, sitting on his porch, he slammed his fist against the armrest, feeling both frustrated and trapped. "I'm done," he muttered to himself, a fire igniting inside him. Why should he be forced to conform to such ridiculous standards while others in the neighborhood got away with neglecting their yards? The thought churned inside him, transforming his frustration into determination. He stood up, staring at his uneven lawn with newfound defiance. Instead of surrendering to the HOA's demands, he would take a stand. What if he could turn his lawn into something completely different, something that would make a statement? The idea took root in his mind. If they wanted perfection, why not give them art instead? Mike's heart raced with excitement. This was the moment he decided to reclaim his yard and redefine what it meant to be a homeowner in his neighborhood. Eager to find a solution, Mike dove into researching alternatives to traditional lawn care. He spent hours online, reading articles and watching videos about different landscaping options. As he scrolled through countless images of pristine artificial lawns, he began to feel a spark of hope. Artificial turf seemed like the answer he had been searching for, no need for watering, mowing, or costly fertilizers. It was perfect for someone who wanted a beautiful yard without the constant upkeep. He learned about the many types of artificial turf available, each designed to mimic the look and feel of real grass. Some even had advanced technology that kept them cool under the sun. Mike was intrigued by how easy it would be to install and maintain. With this option, he could finally say goodbye to the relentless fines from the HOA while enjoying a vibrant green space. As he continued his research, he found reviews from other homeowners who had made the switch. They shared stories of their satisfaction with artificial lawns and how freeing it felt to escape the burdens of traditional yard work. The more Mike read, the more excited he became about his plan to transform his yard into a maintenance-free oasis that would also make a bold statement. As Mike continued to imagine his new lawn, he felt a rush of excitement and determination. The more he thought about it, the clearer it became that replacing his entire front lawn with artificial turf was not just a good idea, it was the perfect solution. He could already picture how stunning his yard would look, vibrant green grass all year round without the hassle of mowing or watering. With each passing day, his excitement grew. He envisioned having friends over for barbecues and family gatherings on a pristine lawn that he wouldn't have to worry about maintaining. No more worrying about weather conditions or HOA fines, just an inviting space for everyone to enjoy. Mike knew this bold decision would not only transform his home but also change how he felt about living there. After carefully weighing the costs and benefits, Mike took a deep breath and made the call to schedule the installation of his new artificial turf. As he hung up the phone, a sense of liberation washed over him. He was finally taking control of his outdoor space and making a statement against the HOA's unreasonable expectations. No longer would he feel like a prisoner to their rules, he was ready for a clean, beautiful lawn that required zero upkeep. As Mike contemplated his new lawn, a quirky thought crossed his mind that made him smile. He had been thinking about how he wanted to make a statement with his artificial turf, but what if he could do something really unique? Suddenly, an idea sparked: why not dye a patch of the turf to show a giant image of Karen mid-argument? It was a playful nod to the many frustrations he had felt while dealing with the HOA's strict rules over the years. Mike couldn't shake the vision from his mind. The thought of having this humorous artwork in his front yard seemed both rebellious and entertaining. It would be a conversation starter for his neighbors and a way to express his newfound freedom. He imagined visitors arriving and bursting into laughter at the sight, creating a lively atmosphere around his home. Excitement bubbled inside him as he began to sketch out ideas for how the design would look. The image of Karen flailing her arms during an argument would be both bold and colorful, transforming his lawn into a piece of public art. This would not only showcase his creativity but also send a clear message to the HOA: he wouldn't be silenced anymore. With his creative idea in mind, Mike knew he needed help to bring the design to life. He began searching for local artists who specialized in outdoor art and installations. After some research, he found a talented graphic designer named Emma who had experience in creating vibrant displays on unusual surfaces, including artificial turf. Intrigued by Mike's vision, Emma was eager to collaborate. They met over coffee, where Mike shared his whimsical concept of the oversized Karen image. As he described the scene, Karen mid-argument with her hands in the air, Emma took notes and sketched initial ideas. They discussed colors, size, and the best way to apply the dye to ensure it would withstand weather conditions while looking bright and fun. Once they finalized the design, they reached out to a company that specialized in dyeing artificial turf. Mike was excited when they explained how they could use eco-friendly dyes to create realistic textures and vibrant hues. The team prepared a mock-up based on their drawings, allowing Mike to visualize how it would look in his yard. As the installation day approached, Mike felt an exhilarating mix of anticipation and pride. He knew this bold artwork would not only beautify his space but also spark conversations and laughter among neighbors, forever changing the atmosphere in his front yard. The installation day finally arrived, and Mike could hardly contain his excitement as he watched the workers unload rolls of bright green artificial turf. The sun shone brightly, casting a warm light on his front yard, and he felt a flutter of anticipation in his stomach. This was the moment when his bold idea would come to life. As the workers began laying down the turf, Mike couldn't help but smile. He envisioned how incredible it would look once completed. The sound of laughter and chatter filled the air as Emma arrived to oversee the dyeing process. Together, they discussed the final touches for the giant image of Karen. The workers carefully prepared the dyes, ensuring that the colors would pop against the vivid green background. Mike watched in awe as they painted the giant image, capturing every detail of Karen mid-argument. With each stroke of dye, he felt a wave of pride wash over him. This was no ordinary lawn, it was a piece of art that represented his journey and frustrations with the HOA. As the last touches were made, he stepped back to take it all in. His heart swelled with joy knowing that soon, neighbors would see this masterpiece and appreciate its humor, a vibrant testament to his newfound freedom and creativity. The moment had finally arrived for Mike to unveil his new lawn, and he stood outside with a mix of excitement and nervousness. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the vibrant green turf, neighbors started to gather on their porches, drawn by curiosity and chatter. Mike took a deep breath and waited for their reactions. At first glance, there was a moment of silence as people processed the sight before them. Then, laughter erupted from across the street as one neighbor pointed at the giant image of Karen mid-argument, her arms flailing in exaggerated fashion. "I can't believe he actually did it," someone exclaimed, doubling over with laughter. Some neighbors looked confused, unable to grasp why anyone would choose such an unusual design for their yard. A few HOA members arrived shortly after and stood with crossed arms, eyebrows raised in disbelief. One member frowned as he muttered something about decorum while others exchanged glances filled with uncertainty. But amid the mixed reactions, Mike felt exhilarated. The laughter and confusion were exactly what he hoped for, an artistic statement that challenged the norms of neighborhood expectations. It was clear that his lawn had become more than just grass, it was now a bold conversation starter that turned heads and stirred emotions. The HOA quickly caught wind of Mike's new lawn art, and their reaction was one of collective shock. Board members gathered in an emergency meeting, faces tight with disbelief as they reviewed photographs shared by concerned neighbors. "Is this even allowed?" one member asked, clearly struggling to comprehend the situation. Discussions swirled around the table about whether the artwork violated any of their strict regulations regarding yard aesthetics. As the HOA members deliberated, it became evident that they were grappling with a dilemma. On one hand, they had rules against unsightly yards, but on the other hand, they had never considered how to define or regulate artistic expression. The image of Karen was certainly out of the ordinary for suburban landscaping, but it was legal art and did not fall under the typical guidelines for maintenance or appearance. After hours of debate, some board members suggested drafting a new set of guidelines that addressed artistic displays while maintaining neighborhood standards. Meanwhile, others felt this was simply a case of Mike testing the boundaries. Struggling with how to handle the unexpected situation, the HOA realized they needed to adapt to a changing view of what a lawn could be, a reflection of creativity rather than mere conformity. As word spread through the community about Mike's bold new lawn, reactions began to pour in. Some residents were fully on board, cheering for Mike's creative expression and the freedom he had taken to make his yard his own. Neighbors like Sarah from down the street were often seen laughing and taking photos in front of the larger-than-life image of Karen. "This is what our neighborhood needs, more personality," she exclaimed, rallying others to appreciate the humor behind it. However, not everyone shared this enthusiasm. A group of more conservative neighbors, including Mrs. Thompson, viewed Mike's artwork as a disgrace to the neighborhood's aesthetic standards. They exchanged disapproving glances and voiced concerns about how his yard would encourage others to disregard HOA guidelines. "What will happen next? Clowns in the front yards," she scoffed, clearly distressed by the departure from traditional decorum. Despite these mixed feelings, Mike remained unfazed. He found comfort in knowing that true art could stir emotions, whether laughter or disapproval. The reactions only solidified his belief that he had created something unique that sparked dialogue and expressed individuality in a community often bound by conformity. Amidst the varied reactions from neighbors and the HOA, Mike felt a wave of satisfaction as he recalled the research he had done regarding local laws. The artwork he had installed was completely legal. He had learned that municipalities often allowed artistic expressions in private yards as long as they did not pose safety hazards or violate zoning codes. Therefore, his giant image of Karen was not only clever but also within his rights as a property owner. With this knowledge, Mike took pride in knowing he had successfully sidestepped the HOA's far-reaching regulations. Their attempts to control every aspect of his lawn maintenance had backfired, as he turned what was once a source of frustration into a fun and quirky piece of art. He reveled in the fact that while his neighbors debated the appropriateness of his lawn, he was well within his legal rights to create it. The sense of empowerment that came from asserting his freedom left Mike feeling invincible. He understood that his artwork could challenge accepted norms and provoke conversations around creativity and self-expression in the neighborhood. In shifting the narrative from compliance to creativity, Mike stood proudly in front of his lawn, aware that he not only transformed his yard but also redefined what it meant to be a homeowner in his community. Reflecting on his journey, Mike realized that transforming his lawn into a piece of art had changed more than just the aesthetics of his front yard, it had fundamentally altered his relationship with both his neighbors and the HOA. No longer feeling like a victim of arbitrary rules, he had reclaimed his sense of agency and creativity. The vibrant turf featuring Karen mid-argument became a symbol not only of humor but also of standing up for oneself against conformity. Through this bold decision, Mike learned valuable lessons about the importance of community. He discovered that while some might resist change, others would celebrate it, leading to deeper connections with those who appreciated his artistic expression. As conversations sparked around his lawn, he felt a renewed sense of belonging in the neighborhood. Moreover, Mike's experience highlighted that creativity could serve as a powerful tool for self-expression and dialogue. It encouraged him to embrace individuality rather than suppress it, reinforcing the idea that homes should reflect the personalities of their owners. In the end, Mike stood proudly in front of his quirky creation, knowing he had not only transformed his yard but also inspired others to consider how they define their own spaces within the community.